What a great way to wrap up our week in Georgetown with a Georgetown native who's the official spokesperson of the city. Who is he? You'll meet him coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Georgetown campus of Horry Georgetown Technical College. We're focused on the city of Georgetown, and we're visiting with the Honorable Lynn Wilson, the mayor of Georgetown. Good morning, Linwood.
Good morning, Greg. Thank you for coming, and thank you for having us on.
Golly, thank you so much for letting us be here. It was so exciting earlier to kick off this week. Of course, Steve Jones on Monday.
Right.
Pumping up the big chamber dinner, which y'all had last night here up at Pauley's Plantation. So exciting hearing him talk about that. And, of course, all week to visit with Councilman John Boyd from Horry County Council, to visit with Greg Thompson yesterday, the assistant of the president of Horry Georgetown Tech, and Tom Mazer, our foundation board chair, and just to be here at this amazing Georgetown campus of Horry Georgetown Tech.
Well, we thank you for coming. Georgetown, I think being part of the Georgetown community right now is a very exciting time. Our early history goes back to the early 1500s when the Spanish came here. We've had 3 signers from the Declaration of Independence here. We're rich in history. We're the 3rd oldest town in the state of South Carolina. We're experiencing a lot of exciting things here. Georgetown County is beginning to grow. Tourism is a big part of our community right now. So it's a good time to be in Georgetown. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. I think Georgetown's the 4th largest county in the state geographically. Of course, Horry County is the largest county. We always hear that, the largest county in the state. I think Williamsburg and Georgetown back and forth is to 3rd or 4th. I mean, these are some geographically huge counties.
Well, we're right at, I think, about 50-something thousand folks in Georgetown County. You know, I guess we're small compared to the independent Republic of Horry and Williamsburg County. But we're snuggled in on the coast, and our growth is mainly along the coast. Of course, we've got the rural part of Georgetown County, which is primarily agricultural, but our industries, the 2 industries here, provide a lot of job opportunities for our people throughout the county.
For some of our viewers in southeastern North Carolina or in the PD who may not be familiar with those 2 industries, what are you talking about exactly?
We're talking about International Paper Company. They've been here since I think since 1936. We've got ISG, which is International Steel Group of Georgetown, which is a new company for us. They just bought out the old Georgetown steel plant, and they're getting ready to rehire about 350 of our folks, so we're excited about that.
Wow, yes. Golly, Linwood, real quick for viewers who may not have met you in person or seen you on TV, are you originally from the area?
Born and raised here.
In Georgetown?
In Georgetown. I was born here in 1941, went to high school here. This is the only place I've ever wanted to live.
Is that right?
My grandfather was a merchant here for about 50 years, and he served in the House of Representatives. He was a baler. My father came here with his family from Faison, North Carolina, when International Paper Company was started in '36. My father's now deceased, but we've been here. Our roots are deep here in Georgetown. Yes.
Well, it's an amazing, and of course, the city of Georgetown would have about how many folks, Linwood?
We're right at 9,600 folks.
So about a 5th of the county.
Right, right. So we're sort of like Myrtle Beach. Our population grows during the daytime, and probably around 100,000 folks, and then back down when people go back home, go to rest.
If a viewer of ours from Bennettsville has never been down to Georgetown, what would be a few of the top points of reasons they would want to get in the car and make that 2-hour trip?
Oh, I would think immediately for the scenic tour, visit our historic district. We've got a harbor walk down that we put in back in the 80s, made just for them. So they're able to walk on the harbor walk, enjoy the scenery, great restaurants. We've got a couple of tours that really will give you insight into our city. Its founding of the churches are open, the cemeteries. We're just rich in history, and we love people, so we're delighted to have them.
Oh, yeah. What is that like serving as the as the mayor of a city, Linwood, when someone asks you, what do you do, obviously you refer to them what your business profession is, I guess, at some level, but you also have a full-time role as mayor of the city.
Well, as my boss, Tommy Bouchette, says, don't forget who signed your check. But I'm a banker also, but being mayor is a lot of fun. It's a challenging work. I found it probably is more challenging than some of the things I've ever done, particularly in a budget crises, and trying to balance a budget. But the other side of that coin is you get to help a lot of people, and that's the fun side of it. I mean, anybody can build buildings and do things like that, but helping folks is the big thing, which I enjoy the most out of it.
Linwood, I think earlier before we started, you were sharing with me a little bit about where you attended college, which was not in the Palmetto State, instead in the Tar Heel State.
No, I was a 1959 graduate of Winyah High School, and like so many kids at that time, didn't know what I wanted to do. I'd like to do that all over again. But a lot of my friends were going to Wingate Junior College, which was unbeknownst to me. Yeah. And I knew that I didn't want to go to the University of South Carolina, which most of a lot of my classmates did. So I joined about 19 other kids and went to Wingate Junior College and finished there in 2 years, and then went over to East Carolina University, which was ECTC then.
Oh, yeah.
And finally graduated from there.
That experience in Greenville, you said growing up in Georgetown, you knew this is where you wanted to live.
Yeah.
But you made that couple-year trek to a different G at Greenville, North Carolina.
Right.
How about some experience there? Was there anything that made you think maybe I need to be in Eastern North Carolina?
No, well, being in Eastern North Carolina was reminiscent of Georgetown a lot. Particularly the low country of North Carolina, and love to grow North Carolina and the people up there, but I always wanted to come back home. I really never wanted to leave it. So
even with your dad being from Faison, thinking about that and all the deep roots there.
I would work at the paper mill during the summertime and come back home. I remember when I graduated from high school on a Friday night, I was on number 3 paper machine, in the paper mill on Saturday morning, and that was quite an experience at 18 years old being on a paper machine.
Oh, yeah.
So I kind of worked myself back and forth through college working at the paper mill.
Can you share with viewers, obviously we got a little time, Linwood, can you share with the viewers how, of course, those are the 2 big industries here, one you've worked in. How does the paper industry work? I mean, how does all this happen here? How does international paper take effect and the impact it makes on the economy we're aware of, but what do they do in there?
Yeah. Well, the lifeblood of Georgetown County at that time, and I guess in a lot of ways still is International Paper Company. Of course, their employment's not quite as large as was then, but most of the kids that I grew up in Georgetown, what I knew then, was a very quiet, peaceful southern town, and everybody's parents worked at International Paper Company. And most of the folks that came here were not original Georgetonians.
Yeah.
They moved in after the Depression and were looking for jobs, and got a lot of friends whose parents are descendants from North Carolina, Georgia, and all over the South. As far deep south as Alabama, looking for jobs, and so it was an in-migration.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of
what
experience.
happens in there? I mean, how does the paper industry work? I mean, what all goes on? Just to give a little summary to viewers who may be attorneys or doctors or homemakers.
I would be, of course, International Paper Company's when I was there, their primary product was brown paper, which was used for WeatherTech siding on houses, paper bags. Mostly, they imported some heavy paper for weather siding, and of course, we're surrounded with large pine plantations, and so the trees would be harvested and brought into town, chipped. The bark would be cooked. The tree would be cooked. The chips, the bark was used as fuel, so it's a very efficient operation. And of course, at that time, I think I'm correct in saying that International Paper Company was the world's largest paper manufacturing plant at that time.
Is that right?
Yes.
Wow.
the port was extremely busy as compared to what it is now. A lot of the raw product was brought in through barge through the Intracoastal Waterway down through Conway, Myrtle Beach, and on down. Yeah.
Then you said your father was a merchant when you
No,
were...
my grandfather was a merchant. My
was,
grandfather
okay.
was a merchant. He had a grocery store here, and I kind of grew up in that grocery store and worked in there all during high school. And that's when you would call in, and you would take the order over the telephone. You would fill it. You'd put it in boxes. I would put it on the truck and deliver it.
Oh, yeah.
Take the groceries and put it in the houses and in the milk in the refrigerator.
Oh, come on.
Oh, no. And then they would pay my grandfather every week. The paper mill would get paid, I think Thursdays and Fridays were their payday.
Right.
And they would come and settle with my grandfather one of those 2 days, and then we'd go another week. So all the meat was hand cut. It was butchered locally. And so it was quite an experience.
How exciting. I remember we were visiting with Harold Clarity from the Chapin Company a few months back when we were focused on Sun Fun, and hearing him talk about the Chapin Company and their interaction with so many of the folks from the Carolinas who would come to the beach and in the summer times do just that. Even late into the 70s and 80s, where they were doing this on a regular basis, bringing the groceries to folks' homes.
Right.
And that must have been very exciting.
It was exciting because you got to know the folks.
Yeah.
And I think I was probably 14 or 15, but I was like another child to some of these people.
Sure.
I mean, the houses were wide open, and you knew what to do with the groceries, and you knew what they would go order every week, so you would just fill it and deliver it.
Linwood, you began your politicking, it sounds like at age 14. You were laying the groundwork.
No, I was working hard for my grandfather,
oh, yeah.
but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And, of course, some of those things that you did then you can't do today.
Right.
Yeah,
No.
but it's a wonderful town to grow up in.
Now, when did Georgetown Steel become a big component or a big force, and now ISG?
Yeah, Georgetown Steel came in, I want to say, in the early 70s.
Okay.
It became as Corp Industries, and then it was sold a couple of times and went through some name changes to what it is today.
ISG.
ISG,
yes.
right, International Steel Group. Yeah.
Well, of course, for viewers who haven't visited the area in a long time, if they're coming in and some of the highlights you pointed out of coming down to the Harbor Walk, the Kaminsky House is a real popular. Is it the Kaminsky Museum or the
Kaminsky Museum? It's Kaminsky House Museum.
Okay.
Mr. Kaminsky family goes back to early merchants and played a larger part in developing a Georgetown. And they were merchants, and this is their home that was built on the river right there. A gorgeous site and a beautiful home, and the Harbor Walk starts right at their front yard, in their front yard, so you have an opportunity to walk almost the length of the Central Business District here in Georgetown. Of course, all the stores open to the rear of the Harbor Walk and have access from the boardwalk into the shops.
So you have access from the boardwalk as well as right there on Front Street?
Yeah. Historically, those stores, the front of the stores were actually facing the river, because Georgetown is a convergence of 5 rivers, and of course then it had a rural economy, and the plantations would come in and buy groceries, and a lot of them were sent back up the river by boat. Yeah.
You said Georgetown's a convergence of 5 rivers.
Yeah, you've got...
That's something a lot of folks don't know about.
Well, you've got Sampit River, you got the Walkamo, you got the PD, and the Black River. Yeah.
How exciting.
So... It is.
Have you traveled all those rivers, Linwood?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I used to hunt and fish most of them growing up. My dad was an avid outdoorsman, and so I'd have to paddle the boat for him while he jigger fished in the summertime, or we would go duck hunting together. And so we grew up in those rivers.
Now, I think I saw you got a daughter, Linwood. Did you take your daughter out much doing the same thing?
We did. Matter of fact, she was home this weekend. Jessica's 27. She's a nurse, but growing up, we were talking about it in the living room the other night. She and her husband, Matt, were home, and just growing up on the rivers when I take her fishing, and we had a little small Boston whaler, and taught her to water ski and swim on the Black River, and so we spent a lot of time, as much as I could, with her.
That's great.
As a child, yeah.
We were visiting up at Wildlife Action. We went up to do a week focused on a camp in Mullins.
Right.
We were visiting with the representative, Jim Battle, and hearing him talk about some experiences,
Yes.
taking his daughter out to some of the places very close to where we
Right.
were, his only
Right.
child out to some of the activities there along the PD River, and the excitement of getting a child involved early on. That must have been thrilling for you growing up.
It was. It was a special time for me growing up. When Jessica came along, I said a prayer that I would invest my life in her life as long as I could have her, and that's probably from early days through high school, because once they hit 16 or 17, you kind of tell them goodbye. So I spent as much time as I could with her, and we've got a wonderful relationship. She's a wonderful lady and got a wonderful husband. We're real proud of her.
That's great. That's great. When you think about the experiences for you, and of course, when you, as I asked that question about someone traveling from Bennettsville, why would they want to come in? Some of the experiences that you remember most vividly, of course, talking about carrying groceries to folks' homes, but some of the outdoor experiences, some of the things you didn't do while you were being paid for. What were some of the things that you really remember most vividly about your childhood, Lynn?
Probably with my dad, it was deer driving. Of course, things a little bit different now. Most folks are still hunting, but every Saturday morning we were probably in the woods somewhere deer driving with some friends of his who had hunt clubs, or either we were brim fishing or on the river a good bit. And the other is spending time with my family. We came from a right large family, and in a 2-block area, I probably have about 13 cousins. So
no way.
We kind of were a gang. And so growing up in the neighborhood and certainly being under my grandfather and grandparents' influence and my parents' influence. So we were a small family, went to church every Sunday, every Wednesday night, grew up in the church, and so it has major influence on my life.
Having grown up in Georgetown and born here in 41 and seen the community change so dramatically, what was it like running for office for the first time in the mid-'80s and being elected as mayor?
Well, that was a scary thing. I had never thought about running for public office. I was always involved in the JCs and some civic groups. And a friend of mine at that time was our city administrator, was the first city administrator of Georgetown, David Treen. David just got his master's degree from Carolina, and some things were changing on the political scene here in the city, and he said, have you ever thought about running for city council? And I laughed and said, no, I wouldn't have anything to do with being in politics. And so we talked about it and talked to some other folks and prayed over it, and just felt like that was the thing to do at that time, and have been serving on city council since. The people have been so good to us, and we hope that we've done them a good job. And we had an opportunity. Our mayor resigned at one time and to take a judgeship, and I ran for that term. His unexpired term, was able to win it and fill that term out, and then ran for a full term, and I'm into my second full term now.
Okay, great, good.
But it's been a good experience.
City council service is a big deal. How is the city council made up here in Georgetown?
We have a strong mayor form of government in South Carolina, and city council made up of 6 council members, and we're partisan, and we run at large. So
you run at large,
and
you run partisan.
Run partisan. That's right. That's right.
Oh.
So we've got a mixture of we've got a lady and 2 African Americans, and we've got a good blend on council, cross section of the community
that represents the 10,000 plus or minus residents.
It's a good group to work with. We're become good friends. We have our fights sometimes, but we're able to get over and shake hands and go on.
You pointed out that your boss, we got to get back to that your boss, Tommy, reminds you, doesn't hesitate to remind you where the paycheck comes from.
Right.
You've been with Sunbank now for helping them set up, I think, 3 years, you said.
We did. We just celebrated our 3rd birthday, and I was with a former bank, and Tommy called me, and we talked, and decided that we'd come to work for the bank, and this was before we'd even chartered the bank, so I worked with them on stock issues, calling on folks, and raising some capital for the bank, and then we opened our branch here in July of 2000, I think. Yeah.
Right.
So
Golly, how
it's been a good
exciting.
experience.
Now, where is that located?
We're at 1134th North Fraser Street, which is on Highway 701 going from Georgetown to Conway. It's a large business district out there. We always say that we're close proximity to Walmart Supercenter.
Oh, yeah, that's the place folks would know.
So we're right in that business center. Got a wonderful location, very accessible right on the corner. And so it's been a good experience for us.
You know, every time I see Tommy, he always talks about a community room there at the Waccamaw branch y'all have there right close to the hospital. Coming by to visit the community room, and it's open to the public, and trying to encourage folks to come by. Do you all have one of those here in the Georgetown?
We do. It's not quite as elaborate as the one in the Merle's Inlet office, but matter of fact, we just had a group of folks in there today using the community room, and it's certainly open to anyone who wants to use it. We've had the American Red Cross, we've had Cancer Society, we've had public groups use it, so they're welcome.
I think I saw in doing a little research on you, Linwood, that you've been real active with United Way here in Georgetown County. I think it co-chaired with, am I correct, Sel Hemingway?
I did last year. Sel and I co-chaired. The year before that, I was their campaign director. And this past year, Sel and I co-chaired that campaign. Working with Sel is quite a treat. He's quite a guy. And he just did a marvelous job with the campaign this year. We set some records in the last couple of years, and particularly with what was going on in our community. And we're so blessed. Our community just overwhelmingly responded, and with Georgetown Steel being down at that time. And a lot of churches poured out their support. So that was a wonderful year for us.
And Linwood, at that same time, when the churches were pouring out because of the potential loss of Georgetown Steel and its potential shutdown and now reemergence, wasn't there a huge gift that came in? Somebody who passed away who was committing back to Georgetown?
We thought it was very huge. It was to the tune of, I think, about $30 million. And so we can have the benefit of that trust or that foundation for quite some years to come. So. And it couldn't have come at a better time.
I know. It was so, when you heard about such a shakedown happening in Georgetown County and to see, I think, Frances Brunel committing $30 million in her will there to benefit Georgetown County, it surely couldn't have come at a better time. We got a few minutes, Linwood, and we think about yourself growing up here in Georgetown. And, of course, it's so difficult at times when you know a city so well to think of all the reasons why folks want to come visit you. And, of course, you talk about the 5 rivers emerging down here, and of course we've got this amazing mural behind us and the excitement of being on the Georgetown campus of Horry Georgetown Tech. But for our viewers in the PD in southeastern North Carolina, I know we talked with Steve a little bit about this on Monday, but what are some reasons why they want to get in the car? I know we talked about that for Bennettsville, for viewers all over, or even viewers along the Waccamaw Neck, as opposed to coming up to the beach. Why not come down here?
Well, I think I kind of put myself in that position. Why would I want to come to Georgetown? I think just to come to participate in the history of Georgetown. Georgetown is a beautiful place to visit, certainly being on the rivers. We're access to the beaches just about 12 miles away. Our historic district, I think, is just awesome. I love to go down there, walk the Harbor Walk. You can see live the shrimping industry in full force down there. You can see the shrimp boats leave. You can see them come back with their catch. You can see them loaded on the docks, fresh catch. You can even go in and buy shrimp, seafood during the summer. So it's a live, active, working dock down there. So all those things are just real interesting. The restaurant business on Front Street is expanding. We've got a tremendous venue of restaurants, got some beautiful shops, got some craft shops. Front Street, as I knew it, has changed, has evolved, let me put it that way, a lot, and it will continue to evolve. We don't have those major department stores down there anymore, but we've got a lot of craft shops and specialty shops, and they're just fun to visit in and out. We've got some wonderful folks who run those shops.
Right.
and can share a lot of history with Georgetown out of those shops. So we encourage you to come. We would love to have you visit our home.
Well, I know we've got that Georgetown Chamber phone number up on the screen, and so surely that opportunity folks can call, learn about some of the activities year-round.
Yes, yeah.
Lastly, Linwood, if you weren't the mayor of the city of Georgetown and executive VP there at Sunbank, what do you think you'd be doing?
That's a good question. I'd probably still be banking, probably doing some mission work. This might be a mission itself.
Yeah.
I'd be doing some mission work, yes, and still involved in the community. We've got a long way to go. Our best years are ahead of us. We've gone through some tough economic times, but everybody else has too, and it's not the toughest economic times this town has gone through. So we have survived, and we'll continue to move on. It's an exciting time to be part of our city and our community.
That's great. Linwood, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Stay tuned to more Carolina People with the Honorable Linwood Wilson coming up next. So oftentimes growing up, as a teenager, you're thinking, I got to get out of this town. I got to get away from here. I'm never coming back. This is a guy growing up who always knew he wanted to be back here, born and bred in Georgetown, a little bit of time in eastern North Carolina, but just enough time to know I got to get home. You heard him talking about delivering groceries in high school and working in the paper mill. It's so exciting to hear folks talk about their hometown and know that's a place that folks need to visit. The Honorable Linwood Wilson.